Good morning or good afternoon, everyone, depending on where you're joining us from, and welcome to today's webinar. My name's Kyle from Business Review, and I'll be your host today. It's our pleasure to have ACG Worldwide with us, who will be presenting this webinar entitled Aluminium-Based Primary Packaging Foils, a Holistic Approach of Blister Packaging for the Pharmaceutical Industry. Today's guest speakers from ACG Worldwide are Dr. Erwin Pasbreg, General Manager, Development and Technology, and Mr. Parikshit Ashar, Manager, Business Development. I'd like to welcome you all to our webinar platform on 24. You'll notice that this webinar is browser-based, so if you disconnect for any reason, please click on the link you received via email to rejoin the session. If you want to ask any questions, you can send them in via the questions widget. Just type them into the box at the top left-hand corner of your screen and click submit, and we'll have some time at the very end to address any questions or thoughts that you may have. If you need any help, use the yellow help widget at the bottom of your screen, and you can move, resize, and maximize any of the windows in front of you to get a better view of the slides. But for now, please allow me to welcome Dr. Parikshit Ashar. Over to you. Okay, looks like we're still waiting. Mr. Parikshit, are you currently on mute, or perhaps you maybe have to redial in?
Can you hear me now?
There you go, I can hear you just fine. Over to you again.
Okay. Thanks, Kyle, and thanks everyone who are with us today evening. My name is Parikshit Ashar, and I'm responsible for business development portfolio for aluminum-based products for ACG films and foils. Our presentation topic for today is aluminum-based primary packaging foils, a holistic approach for blister packaging for pharmaceutical industry. In my 10 years of experience in packaging industry, what I have come across is that different stakeholders have different requirements. Most important and the primary requirement is the barrier protection against moisture, oxygen, and light. This preliminary requirement mainly comes from R&D and the packaging development team. Packaging also required to stop any kind of contamination. From regulatory perspective, packaging should adhere to required standards, certifications, and provide necessary information. From marketing and logistics point of view, it should provide physical protection, security features, and provide necessary information for consumers, aesthetic features, and easy to carry. So, while selecting a correct packaging material, pharmaceutical companies are not only looking at the barrier properties and the regulatory compliances, but they are also looking at price, sustainability, security, and the aesthetic features. And in doing so, they either go with the final product in blister pack or strip pack or the cold form blisters. And in selecting this packaging material, normally they go with the following methodology: innovator pack analysis. Generic packers are packing exactly in the same pack as of the innovator product to put their product in the market immediately. In molecule specific, depending on the requirement of molecules, they are selecting the packaging mode, which can be not same as the innovator pack to save the cost. In formulation specific, by changing APIs, excipients, generic packers are selecting the correct packaging after complete stability study. And in doing this process, if molecule is sensitive to oxygen and light, then they go with a colored film and high barrier PVDC. And since the molecule is sensitive to oxygen, they go with the EVOH based films, which gives a better oxygen or gas barrier. If molecule is sensitive to oxygen and moisture, they go with the high barrier PVDC. Aclar laminate with EVOH, because Aclar gives a moisture barrier and EVOH gives the oxygen barrier. Or they go with the cold form blister form. If molecule is sensitive to moisture and light, they go with the colored film, that's PVDC, which is high barrier PVDC, or Aclar, or the cold form foil. Now, if molecule is sensitive to all these three, moisture, light, and gas, they go with the colored film, either PVDC, high barrier PVDC, Aclar, or cold form foil. So if we see this slide, aluminum-based cold form foils are almost everywhere in this requirement, which meets this requirement. So based on our experience, we have classified different molecules under low barrier, moderate barrier, and the ultra high barrier. The molecules like ranitidine, omeprazole, losartan, they all come under high barriers. And how they are packed? Let us look into the next slide. These molecules are mainly packed in cold form blisters or aclar or laminates of aclar. If molecule doesn't require much high barriers, then they are packed in PVDC or ultra safe. The molecules which are not sensitive to moisture, they are packed in PVC, FX, FG, and PP. With this background now, my colleague Dr. Evan Pasbig will take you to today's presentation.
Good morning, good evening, everybody. I'm talking now about the packaging materials, aluminium-based, what we are producing. I will start to bring some confidence into our products, what we are producing. You will see 3 slides of different products we are producing and the statistical evaluation of the reliability of the production. The first one is cold form material without primer. You see the CP and CPK weight are more than 5. The next slide is showing you the same for primer, the cold form material with primer. You see the CPK weight is 4.3, CP weight 4.7. And the last one related to the processability is lid foil, 25 micrometer aluminium, 5 GS and heat seal lacquer, where the CPK weight is 2.5. Coming to the regulatory compliance, we have a quality and GMP system. We are certified ISO 9001, 14001, 22300, and recently ISO 15378. So with this we ensure that we fulfill all hygiene and quality requirements during the manufacturing process. All our packaging materials, what we are using, is based on raw materials. It's complying with all regulatory requirements in a regulated market. Our products, aluminium-based products, are filed on our drug master file number 24413. For our thermoformed materials, we have a different kind of drug master file. As you see, all this CEU compliance we fulfill. We fulfill the USP requirements, and we are in confirmation with the 21 CFR Part 170, 290. Coming now to the cold form laminate. We see here in general the structure of cold form laminate. We have a sandwich structure with aluminium in the middle. On the outer side, we have biaxial-oriented polyamide, 25 micrometer usually. On the inner side is the sealing layer, in our days still mainly 60 micrometer PVC. OPA is needed for the formability, aluminium as the metal for sure gives the barrier and some stiffness for the laminate, and PVC as a sealing layer has to be neutral to the pharmaceutical product. It provides stiffness as well and is a sealing partner for the lid foil. PVC we are using, it's hard PVC, does not contain any plasticizer. The maximum amount of vinyl chloride, it's less than 10 parts per billion, as the FDA requirements are. As you know, for thermoformed materials, it's less than 1 part per million. Reason for the reduced amount for cold form laminate is that if you close the blister, aluminium on both sides, what is inside stays inside, and the vinyl chloride can migrate into the packed product, and vinyl chloride is harmful for the human body. We can produce both kinds of structures with and without primer on the aluminium on the outer side. Here you see these both structures. On the left-hand side is the material with the primer. Primer is a thin layer of lacquer. Because it's thin, it's called primer. The primer has the reason of the primer is that oil, it's still on the soft tempered aluminium on the surface. It's hindered to come to the adhesive on the outer side and produces the bonding strength and over the time lifting up from the aluminium, and is one reason of delamination. The adhesive on the outer side, it's not identical with the adhesive for the material, pulver material without primer. It's a different one. Lacquer and adhesive have to work together. If you are buying a material, someone is selling you a cold form laminate with primer on the outer side, you should ask him whether it's tested first for sure, and second, whether the adhesive and the lacquer are compatible. The inner side, the adhesive is the same compared with the material without primer, what you see on the right-hand side. From the point of view of protection, both materials are the same. There's no difference for the protection of the product. The difference is only related to delamination resistance. Material without primer, after 3 to 12 weeks with accelerated stability conditions, will delaminate. You cannot avoid this. It can be reduced if the sealing temperature is a little bit lower. If the cavity is not very stiff, so it means bigger than normal, but you cannot avoid delamination. On this slide, you see two photos with pictures with cold form material with delamination. The first one on the right top, you see it's totally delaminated. Such a material definitely no one would like to have. Even it's totally delaminated, the stability of the material, as long for sure the lid foil is not influenced, will stay. There's no influence in the stability of your packed product, because delamination is happening after sealing, forming and sealing. On the bottom, this photo is showing on the left-hand side as the blister should be. On the right-hand side, so it's still the lid foil side as you see there, it's delamination on the back side of the cavity, and with this the cavity is shrinking and pushing the lid foil up. There are different reasons for delamination. First, for sure, related to the laminate. The laminates themselves, it's not correct, related to the surface of the aluminium. Could be too much oil, or not oil, it's more or less the additives from the rolling oil on the surface after the annealing process. The properties of the adhesives are not correct. The bonding to the aluminium and to the OPA, it's not good enough, it's too low. That's why it starts to delaminate relatively early. Then for sure, setting of the laminating machine. If the drying of the lacquer, the adhesive, it's done too high. So the material surface temperature is very high. One part of the adhesive will evaporate. And for sure, if the film, the OPA film, is not corona treated, then delamination will happen earlier as well. But on the laminate, it's not only a cause for delamination. Forming tool has an influence as well. There should be the radius of the matrix, so the female part of the forming tool, minimum 0.5. Then overstretching of laminate will cause delamination. So the cavity should be as safe in the forming as we will describe later. And wrong alignment of forming plugs is one of the main reasons related to the delamination. If the plug is not coming in a rectangle into the laminate and forms the cavity, or is shifted so that one side of the cavity is stretched more compared to the other side, the OPA gets more elongated. OPA intends to shrink because it's a biaxial-oriented film, and then one further. If it's sealed into the radius of the cavity, so the material during the forming process, it's not adjusted from time to time, that you get a moon effect on it as well. Even you can have it with primer, because the OPA gets punctured, and so there are holes. The humidity immediately will go into the material and affect the adhesive. Here you see our structures we are producing. On top, you see all of the three-layer structures with and without primer. We have this. The yellow bar is the standard laminate. As you know, this is 25 OPA, 45 aluminum, and 60 micrometer PVC. The first row is with 30 micrometer PVC as a sealing layer. This came into the market for a second generation of Spiriva. The advantage of this material is it's a lower cross-migration of humidity and oxygen. The disadvantage of this material, if you can say so, is it's more flappy compared to the standard material, so it has to be taken care at the blister machine if this material is running. Then there are mainly in Asia 50 micrometer aluminum used. Then you have the same material with 60 aluminum, 60 PVC. This is if the cavity needs a special stiffness after forming, or the cavity is relatively big. And the main stiff material from three-layer laminate is with 100 micrometer PVC as a sealing layer, mainly used for dry powder inhalation. The next part of the table you see is a four-layer laminate with PVC on the outer side. We brought recently onto the market the material, so the cold form laminates four-layer with heat seal lacquer on the inner side at 7 GSM, so because the density is 5.6 micrometer. Then we have 15 micrometer and 30 micrometer. And you see on the outer side, we have then a stiffening layer made from PVC. In case of the lacquer, is 60 micrometer or 40 micrometer. 15 PVC at 30 micrometer and 30 micrometer both sides, 30 micrometer PVC. This material has the additional advantage, besides no cross-migration, that there's no primer, but there's the same level of delamination compared to the three-layer structures with primer. The last two materials in this row, they are used for stiffness and for flatness as well. So we have 60 micrometer PVC in the first part, and in the last laminate in this part of the table, you have 60 PVC, 60 aluminum, and 60 PVC. It's a very stiff material and has a very good flatness. The last two cold form laminates are based on polyethylene as a heat seal layer, E-label in this case, and again on the outer side, the stiffening layer could be PE, so HDPE, or polyester, depends on requirements of customers. Mainly customers are using this, they are saying we do not like to have any halogen into the material, or they need a lower sealing temperature, then polyethylene is one of the choice. The last part, again with or without primer, it's material for tropical blister, standard-wise 25 OPA, 45 aluminum, and 7 GSM heat seal lacquer. Coming back to the four-layer structures, if you compare it with the standard, the cold form with primer, you see formability and delamination resistance same. There's no difference in the formability. If we are coming to the cross-migration of humidity and oxygen, and we say standard is cold form with primer, 60 micrometer PVC, you see if we are reducing the thickness of the PVC layer, definitely there's less space for the oxygen to migrate in the same time unit through this layer. And in the case of the lacquer only and the polyethylene layer, it's the best what we can offer currently. And with the better cross-migration barrier, the shelf life of the product, so you are packaging, it's increasing. The bending stiffness of this material, it's more or less, in the case of 30 and 15 micrometer PVC, is more or less the same like standard material. It's on the outer side, a thicker layer of PVC, it's applied when bending stiffness is increasing. The same as polyester coming onto the laminate with polyethylene. Here you see a sketch for related cross-migration. You have on the corner these four cavities in red. These are the cavities get the main influence over the time from humidity and oxygen migrating through the land area into the cavity. These cavities we are using when we do calculation of cross-migration of oxygen and humidity. We developed together with the IIT in Mumbai a special software that we can do this kind of calculation. Here you see such a calculation. Sealing layer is PVC, respectively the lacquer 7GSM 5.6 micrometer. After 1 year accelerated stability conditions for a cavity with a diameter of 10 millimeter. And you see reducing of the thickness of the sealing layer definitely is less, as we said, space per time unit to migrate into the cavity. But you see as well the reduction of the thickness of the PVC layer. It's not 50% and again 50% less migration. The reason for this is that the adhesive is on the inner side and the heat selectors themselves, they do not provide a very good barrier against humidity and oxygen. So the adhesive currently still is the weak point to get an excellent barrier against the cross migration. This is the same compared with polyethylene as a sealing layer. The barrier to humidity, it's more or less similar to 15 micrometer PVC. What it's not so good if HDPE is used as a sealing layer is the barrier against oxygen. PVC has a better barrier against oxygen compared to polyethylene. This is the barrier related to the width of the lens area, so from the cutted side into the distance to the cavity. Standard-wise, it's used 4 millimeter in your industry. If you are going less, so reducing the lens area, you are saving material, but the time until the gases and humidity will migrate into the cavity, it's reducing, so you get more fast the increase of humidity and oxygen into the cavity. If you are increasing the lens area, then definitely the barrier for your product, the shelf life, is increasing. I guess it would be difficult to convince your marketing to have a blister with 8 millimeter lens area because it becomes bigger. And this is more costly, and if you compare it with the material your competitors may have on the market, the blister would be bigger. Related to the bending stiffness, the structures we have discussed, we have the yellow bar is standard material, 25, 45 to 60 PVC. Next to this, you see the material 30 and 15 micrometer PVC as the sealing layer. More or less it's the same. If you have it in your hand, all the three materials, you won't find a difference in the stiffness of the laminate. Then the material 60 PVC on the outer side, it's much more stiff related to the bending stiffness compared to the standard. The reason is that the bending is done from the outer side, so from the PVC on top of the OPA, so the stiffness is increasing. If you compare it, the stiffness layer is on the inner side, and the same for this material with polyester on the outer side with polyethylene as a sealing layer.